heartfelt namaste. Today, the topic under discussion is Rahu in the 8th house. 8th house is a very critical house. People consider it to be a bad house. However, it has many hidden features unknown to others, so that is probably one of the reasons the 8th house is not appreciated in the way it can be. Rahu in the 8th house. Rahu in the 8th house gives a person a strong occult nature with a research oriented mind. The karakas of Rahu in the 8th house, or any house for that matter, have been discussed widely, and as such, anybody who looks into the other videos published earlier would get a very detailed description of them all. The 8th house is also called the Randra house or the Mrityu house. Ayu, Mrityu, foreign travels, diseases, longevity are the karakas of this house. Saturn, death and longevity. So, these is ruler of the 8th house is Saturn, and it has a stronghold over a person's death or a long life. Body, exterior genitals and anus. So that is the body part that the 8th house governs. The timing of the 8th house is related to the place and the manner of death. Family members, the family of the spouse and the enemy are ruled by the 8th house. Mental makeup describes sorrow and disappointments. The social status, or what the 8th house brings into our life, is a bad name. It could bring about delay in our work. It could create drowning, theft, loss, sorrow, strife, dejection, suicide, or robbery. Not very beautiful things to associate with. However, 8th house can also bring about money, legacies, wills, pensions, insurance, monies that one has to work for in terms of legal issues, monies that would entail some time to come our way, something that is definitely not what we have worked hard for. 8th house is also related to research and deep thought. The 8th house is the house of longevity, the internal parts, that is the anus, the liver, the kidneys, the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, all those form a part of the 8th house. Any injury to the part above and the death relating to it is also related to the 8th house. Diseases or illnesses related to the blood system, all kind of fever, AIDS, TB, smallpox, etc. are related to the 8th house. There are contagious illnesses, chronic diseases, injury, fracture to bone in any part of the body, and that can lead to invalidity or non-movement of a person. Cancer to any part of the body, leprosy and plague, diseases generated by influenza and bronchitis, risk or injury or death due to water, blood poisoning, snake bites, injury, death by falling from a height, accidents, all form of injury and death by calamity inessential form the part of the 8th house. This is also a house which governs recovery or non-recovery of losses of old dues. It is an house where we see gains from speculation of any kind or losses of it, and it also works the same in case of illegal activities. It's an act of kidnapping for ransom of political power, torture of death by a person who's kidnapped, consequences of sheltering guilty people and giving shelter to guilty people, concealment and storage of contraband goods. So all things that are illegal can also find the way in the 8th house. Criminal acts, organizing rallies, hiring hoodlums, dacoity, murder attacks are all a part of it. The first example here that we need to understand is that of Albert Einstein, a very well-known figure who brought forward the theory of relativity, revolutionized the entire concept of mass. E is equal to mc square, his famous formula that got him the Nobel Prize. And he was known to have discovered photoelectric effect also. His name is synonymous with genius, and the scientific definitions of the modern age ranging from bomb to space travel, electronics to quantum theory, all bear the stamp of his conceptualization. Albert Einstein has his Rahu in the 8th house. 8th house is the house of discoveries also. It is the house of research. And being a scientist, this took his work onto a different level altogether. He was the one, as he've already stated and seen, to have his stamp on all conceptualizations, be it from electricity, electronics to quantum physics. It is his work that has been carried forward by so many scientists till date. So he was also the one to help in the conceptualization of the atom bomb. 8th house is also death and destruction. A major cause Rahu sitting there with exalted Mars help him achieve. We will learn more on the 8th house and its relationship of Rahu with Albert Einstein's chart in the last part of this video. Giovanni Agnelli. He was an Italian industrialist, founder of Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino in 1899, and he was responsible for the creation of Fiat Auto and thus began a dynasty. He also has Rahu placed in his 8th house. Coincidentally, this again happens to be the Artha house, thereby garnering a huge amount of wealth in the way by way of partnerships. He organized his business like a regiment and forged shrewd political alliances that aided him. When Mussolini began his rise, Giovanni lined up as an early supporter, for which he was reported by the post of senator for life. He was a stern patriarch who ran roughshod over his son Urado, who was later killed in an airplane accident. More on how Rahu resonates to 8th house on Giovanni in the later part of this video. Final example here again is that of Michael Jackson, singer, dancer, and exceptionally talented entertainer. He performed from the age 6 as one of the Jackson 5, a group promoted by Motown and consisting of Michael, Jermaine, Marion, Tito, and Jackie. By the time he was 11, the boys had already sold 6 gold records, and he made his first solo record the fall of 1971 when he was 13. His album Thriller sold more copies than any album in history, and by February 1984, he had won 8 Grammy Awards. So this Rahu sitting there in the 8th house brings him lots of wealth, brings him lots of prosperity, but that prosperity and wealth has a trade-off, which we will see when we reach the last segment of this video. The Thriller was the biggest selling solo of all times, and his estimated wealth reached the amount of some 100 million. Great going feat. So let's see what Rahu in the 8th house brings us. It gives a person an ability to acquire finances through marriage and partnership. So, as we know, Giovanni was promoted. He made a lot of partnerships which helped him to gain a lot of wealth. Albert Einstein won the award, and he sustained to be the best scientist during his time by relatively making new partnerships, and the atom bomb was also made in partnership with another scientist. These people have to learn to work with other people's money. They need to take loan and they need to understand, be humble enough when they are in debt to ask people for loans. Michael Jackson, in the last part of his life, had to face a lot of debt as he had taken up lots of loans. Being inventive, being research oriented, and having an ability to create a transformation on a level. Yes, that is what highly evident it is from the charts of Michael Jackson and Albert Einstein. As far as Giovanni is concerned, yes, he too was highly inventive. He had a creative mind. As soon as he heard about a carriageless, about a horseless carriage, he went ahead, invested in it, knowing that the opportunity was enormous and the growth in that sector phenomenal. Occultist, yes, Michael Jackson is said to have had during the last part of his life a strong inclination towards Kabbalah and then finally Hinduism. And Albert Einstein regularly said that the more I research, the more I work on in my theories, the more I realize the presence of God. Having chronic diseases, Albert Einstein and Michael Jackson both had chronic diseases for the last 40 years, 39 to 40 years of his life. In the 79 years of his existence, Albert Einstein suffered from stomach ailments, heart ailments. The fact that Michael Jackson died because of his dependency on prescribed drugs is well known to the extent that his personal doctor, physician, was imprisoned for 4 years on charges of manslaughter and prescribing too many drugs to Michael Jackson. Traveling across the oceans, adventurer can be seen through all the three examples who have traveled far and wide to every nook and known corner of the world. The last point of learning to speak with grace and humility bears a lot of research, but it is a known fact that Rahu in the 8th house makes you want to go ahead and be humble and be loving in your speech. Michael Jackson had a very soft speech to begin with, a beautiful voice that he shared with the world. Lots more points with Rahu in the 8th house. If any one of you have points to share, you'll be most welcome. Please do put down the points in this group. Thank you so much.